Today, I'm going to be addressing a bit of a controversial topic, and I'll be both criticizing and defending the show. Please bear in mind that while I'm personally not white, I'm also not black, and so I recognize that my perspective on this issue comes in many ways from my own life experiences. That said, let's talk about the death of Missandei. Game of Thrones has never been a show that's particularly strong in its portrayal of people of color. And in some senses, that's built into the story. Westeros is a bit of an allegory for medieval Britain, and all of the POV characters are white. However, Daenerys' experiences in the East do depict people of color en masse, yet often fail to portray them in a nuanced way. Instead, the story leans heavily on two problematic tropes: the white savior and the black best friend. To put it simply, the white savior is a trope in which a white character rescues non-white characters from unfortunate circumstances, often in a way that turns out to be self-serving. And the black best friend is a trope where a white protagonist has a black friend whose role revolves almost entirely around the white lead, and primarily exists to make the white character appear more inclusive. Both of these tropes are encapsulated by Daenerys Targaryen, and particularly her relationship to Missandei of Nath. While Missandei does have a subplot of her own with Grey Worm, in which both reclaim aspects of their humanity, both of their lives exist narratively as extensions of Daenerys' arc. Unlike maybe Varys and Tyrion, Missandei and Grey Worm don't really make individual political choices, or shift in their allegiances, but rather they possess true unquestioned loyalty to their liberator. And as such, their lives, and even their budding romance, exist as an affirmation of Daenerys, as we cannot escape the reality that it's to her that they owe their happiness. Which is why I was a bit surprised by some of the reactions to Missandei's death, as many have argued it problematic to kill the show's only woman of color in order to further the storyline of a white woman. While I agree in principle, the issue with this perspective is that it's not just Missandei's death that exists to further the storyline of Daenerys, but also her life. And while she and Grey Worm's dream of returning to the Isle of Nath and living happily ever after would have been sweet, it ultimately would have been an affirmation not of their choices, but of Daenerys's. Because the conditions required to achieve this dream are not based on their own successes or failures or choices, but on Daenerys's. You see, Daenerys has brought thousands upon thousands of brown people to the continent of Westeros in order to reclaim her throne and politically restructure a society where they feel neither invested nor at home. Yet, only two of them are characters who we, the audience, are made to feel invested in: Missandei and Grey Worm. It's likely that more than half of the people Daenerys has led to war will not survive. So, for the only two people of color Daenerys brings to Westeros that we, the audience, know to be awarded a happy ending, would be an inaccurate portrayal of the consequences of Daenerys' white savior story. While it's more likely the showrunners just wanted to have Missandei die purely to push Daenerys to anger and to make the last war personal for Grey Worm, it's ultimately the right choice for the narrative because it finally challenges Daenerys as a white savior in a way the audience can feel. Yes, thousands of Dothraki die in the opening charge against the army of the dead, but it's really the death of Missandei which forces the audience to contend with the reality that while Daenerys' campaign in Slaver's Bay empowered people of color to fight for their own liberation, her campaign against Cersei has essentially used those people in a way that puts her own desires ahead of their interests. Simply put, Daenerys' war against Cersei uses the Unsullied and the Dothraki, but isn't for the Unsullied or the Dothraki. Unlike the supernatural war against the army of the dead, Daenerys' war against Cersei is not for the benefit of the people actually fighting the war, who are primarily people of color. And while I understand and empathize with those that are tired of black and brown victimhood as a way to make points which center around white people, the same is true of the way the story has used black and brown life. And ultimately, the solution to that dilemma is not to write less victims and more happy endings, but to give those characters agency and centralize stories around characters of color. Which is a battle Game of Thrones lost a long, long time ago. But there is a glimmer of hope at the end. Though Missandei has died, and with her the chance at a happy ending, Grey Worm is still alive. And when all is said and done, he still has the chance to take the Unsullied to the Isle of Nath and protect it in Missandei's memory. A chance for Grey Worm to be the leader his people chose, and for the Unsullied to finally put their faith not in saviors, but in themselves. Anyways, that's just my brief opinion on a pretty controversial topic. But obviously, I know that my perspective isn't the only one out there, and I do want to hear from all of you. So feel free to sound off in the comments. I do read like all of them. So peace out. Thanks for watching.